Hi, and welcome back to Jen and Dan's Natural Healing with Plants, the go to podcast for holistic health seekers looking to harness the power of nature for health and healing. I'm Jen. I'm a passionate health educator, whole food plant based culinary coach, and master herbalist. And I'm here with Dan, an exercise specialist and wonderful master herbalist. Together, we dive into the world of natural healing, bringing you a wealth of knowledge and practical advice. We draw from both traditional wisdom and modern science with herbs and foods to help you achieve optimal health. So, Dan, let's get into it. Why are we so freaked out about protein?
Well, I think that first of all, there's really, really good marketing behind it. I remember when I was a kid growing up, yeah, I was into the bodybuilding and all your magazines, every page had something about protein or it had a protein supplement, something like that. You can't build muscle without eating just enormous amounts of protein. So the panic's still here. It's still here. So I
Yeah.
talk to people, they think that they're going to waste away without a steak at every meal, you know?
Right. Well, it kind of goes back to, so I know when I got my master's is in health science, not in nutrition, but it was in health science, but we took lots of nutrition courses. And in our nutrition courses, we learned that an egg was the perfect protein. And so everything else was compared to an egg. And I can't remember the scale, but like egg was 100 and everything else was compared to that. And so less than 100, whatever that unit was. And so we had to compare everything to the egg. And so I also remember back then, so this was back in the 90s. So yes, I'm ancient. We learned that it was dangerous to be vegan, that you had to have a certain type of amino acids. They had to be eaten in combination with each other. Like if you had peanut butter on toast, that would meet your protein needs. Or you had beans and rice, but you had to have them together. And if you didn't, that you weren't going to get enough protein and that was really dangerous. And that was all based on one study, very misleading science, and has been debunked. But it was in our textbooks, and no telling how many years that was in textbooks. And so many people learned that you have to have meat, it's dangerous to be vegan, and that we had to have all of this protein. At the same time, I also learned, and I've said this on the podcast before, that the amount of protein we really need in a day was the equivalent of a tuna can. So, like, this is a mason jar lid, but about the size of this. One can of tuna was all the protein you needed in a day. And I was like, wow, I eat a lot more than that back then. I haven't in years now, since then. But back then, bacon for breakfast, ham or turkey for lunch, and then steak or ground beef or chicken or fish for dinner. And so 3 times a day. And so I was like, wait, this is all I need in a day, but I'm eating, that much. And so that was back in the 90s. People still today are eating that much meat, but we don't need meat 3 times a day. We don't need any meat. We've learned since then that we recycle amino acids, um, and so on. And so that's kind of where I wanted to get started today. But there's still, I mean, the whole carnivore world out there. These people who are just eating meat, meat, meat all day long, and that can't be healthy.
Oh no, and a new study's come out about that, showing the carnivore diet is directly related with developing heart disease, which that's a no-brainer, right? Because you can't, there's never been, the human race has never lived on just meat. I mean, you got to have some berries in there and some tubers and some fiber somewhere, or your gut's not going to work right. And I know there's going to be people that disagree. But there's also the thing where you just said we don't have to have as much protein as they tell us, but also there's still there's a lot of people still tell you have to combine plant proteins like beans and rice, or you won't get all of your amino acids, and that's been debunked for years. But there's still professionals saying that's still true.
Right,
But you don't have to. You don't have to eat them at the same meal to
right.
get,
You
yeah.
don't even have to have them all in one day, though you probably do, because I mean, we don't realize it, but there's even protein in potatoes. Yes, it's a trace
Mm.
amount, but every whole food that we eat, all of our produce contains protein, fats, and carbohydrates. It may be a trace amount in everything, but it is in there. And so we need to eat these whole foods. And something that we did not learn back in the 90s, we learned about fiber, but fiber was to bulk your poop and make you poop. We
Yeah.
didn't know about the microbiome. We didn't know about feeding your gut bugs and the importance of fiber. And when we look at the longest living people, and when we look at tribal nations, like people say paleo is the way to eat, blah, blah, blah. Back then they ate over 100 grams of fiber. Well, that's what we
Mhm.
need to be focusing on is the fiber, not the protein. They weren't eating 100 grams of protein, they were eating 100 grams of fiber. And we didn't learn that back then. And hopefully that is going to be written in textbooks coming up. But who's writing our textbooks at the moment? Right. And
Yeah.
how long it takes 17 years for a study to change a textbook. And so
Yeah, I know.
we're really slow on this one.
Uh, well, also, if you look at some of the longest living people right now, they're mostly plant-based. I'm not saying that they never eat meat, but they're mostly plant-based, like the blue zones. A lot of those guys, those people live on beans, vegetables, fruit, and they do have a little bit of meat, but it's not every day.
Right.
But I
Some are
think,
vegan.
yeah, some of them, yeah.
Hmm.
The California Loma Linda,
Melinda.
yeah.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah, and even like in Okinawa, and so meat is used as a condiment. It's just a
Yeah.
tiny bit of meat, but everything else is all plant-based. Yeah, and so I also want people to think about how many people do you know who have a protein deficiency?
I've never heard of it.
Me
I,
neither. I don't know anybody who's had, especially here. Right. No one has
oh
a
yeah.
protein. Even the people who are living on junk food that doesn't have, like, if you're living off Doritos and Oreos, and junk food that does not have your protein, fats, and carbohydrates that you need, and
Yeah.
fiber. That's chemicals. And so those people are even not wasting away from lack of protein,
That's
right?
incredible, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't know how they're not. I mean, I'm sure they're deficient in everything. But we're all panicked about protein, and if you want to be healthy and you want to lift weights and all that, you need lots and lots of protein. And there's people, I'm guilty as well. I used to try to get 100 grams of protein a day as well. And then the more I studied, the more I learned, wait, that's actually not healthy. I don't, I'm only 5'1". I don't need 100 grams of protein a day. And that could actually be adding to fat and adding to inflammation in my body.
Oh yeah, that's what a lot of people don't consider is if you overeat any of the macronutrients, you're going to start to gain fat. And if you're a weightlifter, you don't want to be fat. You're trying to be healthy and get leaner and all these things. And then, they don't talk about how it's important to look at the sources of protein because some sources of protein are healthier for your body than others. I mean, there's
Mhm.
studies now showing that high animal protein, if you eat a lot of that, it's linked to increased IGF-1 levels, which can increase your risk of cancer. It also increases your risk of inflammation. Well, it does increase inflammation if you eat a lot of animals. Just you remember the Greger study showing that when you eat meat, there's so many bacteria on the meat, even after it's been cooked, that your body sends out all these red, white blood cells to try to
An
get,
immune response,
yeah,
yeah.
and it makes you more inflamed. It's just crazy.
It creates inflammation, and there's no fiber in meat. And we need fiber to feed our gut bugs to help increase our immune system, balance our immune system. So when we're eating meat, we're creating acid in the body, we're signaling an immune response, and we're causing more damage instead of feeding and providing healthy nutrients that our body really needs and craves.
Yeah, we don't want more inflammation, especially if we want to exercise, because
Right.
exercise causes more inflammation. So we want to make our diet as anti-inflammatory as we possibly can, because my thing is about longevity. You know, some people I want to be big and strong when I'm like 25, but what about when you're 55? Don't you want to still be healthy?
Yeah.
I see a lot of
Right.
kids just ruining their health, taking steroids and eating all this stuff just to get big now. But then when they're 50, they're gonna have all these health problems. Instead, you should focus on how can I take care of myself now so that when I'm 50 years old, I can still be healthy, still
Yeah.
work out, and be there for my kids and
Yes, it makes I get so frustrated, and it really makes me sad, actually. I've had clients who've met with me who they want to eat in a healthy way. They want to learn about nutrition, make sure they're feeding themselves and their family in a healthy way, but they also want to look good in their bikini.
Hmm.
And it takes too long, in quotes, I'm using that in quotes, to look good in a bikini eating a healthy way.
Hmm.
Right? We can get quick results if we do it in an unhealthy way. And unfortunately, in our society, you want to look good in a bikini. And so we're looking for those quick fixes. And so whether that's in the gym, bulking up with whey protein and other supplements, packing on the protein, or that's under eating or following a bodybuilder's plan, the chicken, broccoli, sweet potato plan, where you eat exactly the same foods every day, those yes, eating chicken, broccoli, and sweet potato. Broccoli and sweet potato are good for you. Chicken is not. Listen to our last episode if you want to learn more about the hazards of eating chicken. But those sound healthy. People who are losing weight, they want to lose weight. They're told eat, chicken on a salad, eat chicken and broccoli, and things like that. And so that sounds healthy. But if you eat it every single day, you're missing so many other nutrients that you need in your body. And when we eat animal products, that's creating a more acidic environment in our body. And our body has to maintain a very um, stringent, that's not the right words, acid alkaline balance. And so, if we're eating more animal products, we're throwing off that balance. Think about it when you go, if you've ever been in the emergency room and they check and they give you IV fluids, they give you electrolytes and things like that to help get your body's blood back in balance. It has to be in a certain balance. And when we eat those animal products, it makes it more acidic. Well, how do you cool acid? By adding in a soda, something alkaline. And where do you get that in the body? From your bones. And so the bones, so these 25-year-olds who are bulking up on tons and tons and tons of protein, all these people, think about all these women in perimenopause who are doing carnivore.
Hmm.
Perimenopause is when you start, it signals this massive bone loss unless you're protecting your bones. So if you're eating carnivore and you're in perimenopause or early menopause, you're already at very high risk of osteoporosis. Throw in an acidic carnivore diet, and you're setting yourself up for disaster. The brittle bones, bone loss, increased osteoporosis. And not only that, when we're pulling the calcium from the bones, where's that? How does that calcium get travel? How does that travel through the body? Through your arteries. Remember, we're trying to make the blood more alkaline. And so putting calcium in the arteries, have you ever heard of calcium deposits? Hello, we
Hmm.
don't want that calcium in our blood. And so that's a whole nother reason that we don't want to eat animal products.
Yes, and if you're eating a variety of whole plant foods like we talk about week to week, right? Beans, lentils, hemp seeds, quinoa, all these wonderful foods, you're going to get more than enough protein. I saw a video on Gregor's channel showing that even vegans are getting more protein than we should. So it's not hard to get protein.
It's not hard at all. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. So let's talk about that. How much protein should we eat?
well, for most adults, we're looking at zero point 0.8 to 1 gram per kilogram of body weight. So to get kilograms, you take your body weight, divide it by 2.2, and then you'll go by that. So if you're, I don't know, I can't do it in my head, but that's not a lot. That's it's a good bit of protein, but it's not what they're telling us. So for average adult, you're looking at 45 to 65 grams a day. Athletes, they need about 1.2 to 1.6 grams per kilogram. So it's not 300 grams a day, I could tell you that, or 400 or 500. Some of these guys are telling
Mm.
you.
I just calculated mine and it should be between 43 and 54
Yep.
grams a day.
Yeah.
Right. And so maximum 54. And so I have to admit, I used to try to get the 100 grams because I had read all this. We need 100 grams, and I do weight lift. I have my own. I've showed y'all pictures before if you're on my YouTube of my exercise room. I even have machines and stuff here in my exercise room, and I always thought I needed 100 grams, but that was putting my health at risk where I only need up to 54. And I'm not a bodybuilder, and so I don't need the 54. And if you use something like MyFitnessPal or Chronometer, just type in what you're eating, then you're already getting 54 grams of protein a
Oh
day.
yeah. Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
easily, easily, without even trying. You don't need protein powders. right?
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
Now, who does need more protein? Like bodybuilders are trying to build more muscle. But I do believe that there are some other populations that do need a little more protein, but not a lot more protein. So what if we went to 1.2 because we're recovering from something. We have an illness and recovering. So that would put me at 64 grams a day. And so still that's easily obtainable by my food, especially if I have a green smoothie or a green drink during the day, I could easily get all that I need. So someone who has had surgery or is recovering from a serious illness may need some more protein. If you have leaky gut or you've had some of your intestines removed, you may need a little bit more protein because we need those amino acids, not the protein, the amino acids, to repair our intestinal lining. And if something's going on in our stomach, we don't have enough hydrochloric acid to break down protein, or we're missing parts of our stomach that absorbs protein, then we're going to have trouble. So we may need to up it a little bit so that we can absorb our protein a little bit better.
Well, what would you say to the people that say, but don't you have to have meat to get all your protein?
No, no, because all we need is the amino acids, and we can get
Uh-huh.
all the amino acids from our plant foods. There are certain plant foods that actually contain all of the amino acids. Hemp seeds, quinoa, um, tofu. Doesn't tofu have a complete? Yeah, tofu's
Yeah,
complete
yeah.
protein source. Yeah, and so you could eat,
Tempeh.
yeah, soy, any soy,
Mm-hmm.
whole soy, not soy isolate. But yeah, eating those, you can easily get all the amino acids you need, but you don't even need that because, like I said, they circulate through your body. For me, I do add hemp seeds to my breakfast every day. I make a yogurt out of hemp seeds, and so I also include lots and lots of greens because our greens do contain lots of minerals which our body needs, and lots and lots of amino acids. Our dark leafy greens, broccoli, kale, Brussels sprouts, arugula, those are very high in amino acids and minerals. And so if we eat a combination of those and don't eat the same the chicken, broccoli, sweet potato diet, if I'm eating broccoli and sweet potato every single day, those are very nutritious, lots of vitamin A, lots of minerals, but I'm still missing something here or there. And so I need to add in some, like, I don't have any red foods there. I need something with some lycopene. I need something with some anthocyanins. Those are your purples. And so we need to eat all the different colors. That's going to give us all of our vitamins and minerals, but it's also going to give us all of our amino acids as well.
Yes, and it gives us our phytochemicals and helps balance the hormones, the immune system, and our fiber, which is, I have people tell me we don't need fiber. I'm like, "What? Okay, all right.
What?
I don't know. I've had people comment, that
What?
carnivore diets it fixed my gut. I had gut problems. I went carnivore. I ate no fiber. Now my gut's fixed. I'm like, okay,
Wait, that may be true. You're feeling better because you removed whatever was irritating your gut.
yeah.
You're doing an elimination diet basically by just going to the carnivore. And so maybe it did help. What you need to do though to prevent yourself from becoming sick and creating heart disease, creating dementia, creating kidney disease is start adding in those fiber foods slowly. Pick
Yeah.
one thing and add it back. See how your body reacts. Once you get used to that, add the next thing. If you react badly, then I need to leave this out longer. But the goal should not be to eliminate all plants and all fiber. The goal is to heal. Obviously, you had a stomach thing that needed to be healed because humans should be able to eat these plant foods. Hello, what was the first food man ate, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, plants. And so yeah, the goal is not to eliminate all your plants. I'm glad that you've healed, but you've decreased inflammation. Unfortunately, you're starting to create inflammation in other areas of the body.
Oh yeah. I mean,
Mhm.
it's crazy how, I mean, the carnivore diet's so far out there. I'd rather see somebody eat a balanced diet, at least that.
Right. Right. Well, and for my audience, not, I mean, obviously we have more than my audience here on our podcast. My clients, I focus on autoimmune disease. My history
Hmm.
started with autoimmune thyroid, ended up with other autoimmune conditions, and that's who I work with. And I don't want them eating animal proteins. Whereas there are the AIP protocol is organ meats and heavy animal, but also plants, but it's also an elimination diet. So like the carnivore. And so some people do start feeling better because they eliminated these other things. But eating the organ meats and eating the high protein, number one, is not necessary. Number two, creates inflammation in an already inflamed body. If you have an autoimmune disease, you have inflammation in the body, you don't need to be putting foods in your body that are going to create more inflammation. You can get everything you need from your plants. Maybe we need to increase the ways you can better absorb your nutrients by using green juices. Green juices are a fabulous way to absorb your minerals and your proteins. But you definitely don't need to be eating organ meats.
No, and so there's a recent study because I keep up with the recent research because I'm always trying to help people come to realization that we need more plants in our diet. So the newest study, the latest study about what type of protein builds the most muscle, they compare plant protein with meat protein, and it was identical strength gains, identical muscle gains. But the people who are on the plant-based, they're going to have a better heart health, they're going to have better hormones, they're going to have better longevity. I mean, now
And
they're
better
showing,
recovery.
yeah, oh yeah, yeah, because less inflammation.
Yep, better recovery.
So
Yep,
much so, a lot of pro athletes are going plant-based now because they're able to perform better and they feel better. So
yep, yep. Love it. Love it. I know for me, when I gave up all animal products, which for those of you listening, if you haven't heard my story, I was a big meat eater. Dinner was a hamburger and a hot dog. It wasn't, if we had hamburgers and hot dogs, you ate both. Right. And I had meat 3 times a day. I ate a lot of bacon. Pork was one of my favorite things. Barbecue chicken, very unhealthy for 40 years of my life, probably, even after learning about nutrition. And so it's taken me a while to get here. And now I had to recover from autoimmune illnesses and I beat them and I've got sick again. And y'all see me on the podcast in a flare and had to recover again. And so it is definitely possible. And meat is not your friend when you're inflamed. And so I hope that this has been helpful. Is there anything else that you would like to add before we go, Dan?
I mean, I just want to make sure people understand that, especially if you're a bodybuilder, you can still build just as much muscle and don't waste your health trying to get as big as possible. It's not worth it.
Yeah,
A lot of these big guys, they die young.
right.
So,
And if they don't, they're putting their bones and heart at risk too.
yeah. Think about longevity. That's why I say think about your longevity.
Yes. Yes. Yes, and for us, our parents are getting older and they're getting more concerned about going out and doing things and worried about falls and stuff like that. Well, how do you want to feel when you're your parents' age? Do you want to be running around and hiking and doing all these things? Like I don't know if you follow um Sherry. Oh my gosh, I can't think of her last name. I have several of her cookbooks. 78. She decided to run 78 miles in 10 days for her 78th birthday.
Wow.
And she just ran 80 and decided she's going to continue for 100. And so I want to be like
Wow.
that. Do I want to run 100 miles? Hell no. But I want to be able to, be fit. I want to be able to go and do whatever I want to do when I'm
Oh
78.
yeah.
Yes. And so I want to eat in a way that protects my body, cools inflammation, and lets me do all those things.
Yes.
Anyway, I hope this episode sparked an interest in you. If you disagree with us, please let us know. Comment. We want to hear from you. We love to hear from our listeners. Leave a review. Share our podcast with your friend. Who do you know is still drinking those whey protein shakes? Share this episode with them. Anyway, to work with me, you can go to holisticgen.com. That's with a W, WHOLISTICgen.com. The link will be in the show notes. Or to work with Dan, you can go to danthenaturalman.com. I have a membership group that I would love to help you learn how to cook and learn about the body in my membership group. And Dan is getting ready to share his 5-day program as well. And so I hope that you will check us both out and join us. We'd love for that. Anyway, until next time, stay curious and eat more beans.